New York versus Chicago. How do the suburbs compare? Relocating to the Chicago suburbs, I want to start off by saying that my husband is a New Yorker from Westchester County, and I am a Wheaton, Illinois native, a popular suburb in the western Chicago suburbs. I personally lived and taught 7th grade English many lifetimes ago in Westchester County, New York. So I feel qualified to offer my own personal comparison and experience living in both places. I'm Jackie Angiello. Welcome to my channel. I am a second-generation Chicago suburbs realtor specializing in the western Chicago suburbs. I was the #2 solo agent in my brokerage last year out of over 220 agents within Keller Williams Premier Properties. I'm raising my 3 kids in my childhood neighborhood. Spoiler alert, my husband left New York and moved here with me. Not only do I have my own firsthand experience living in both places, but my New Yorker husband provides me with his own commentary on how these two metro areas differ. Here are the 5 ways Chicagoland is different than the New York City suburbs. Number 1, differences in housing. No surprise, New York City suburbs, specifically Westchester County, which is where I lived for a few years, is significantly more expensive in housing prices and property taxes than the Chicago suburbs. Both states have notoriously high property taxes, but if you're leaving New York for Chicago, you'll feel some relief there. The housing in Chicagoland is overall newer than the older, higher concentration of vintage and unique properties in Westchester County. Much of Chicagoland was developed from the 1960s through the 1990s, and there are many more planned unit developments here versus New York. You will find more continuous sidewalks in Chicagoland with more parks and playgrounds, streetlights, roads with curbs and gutters, and the sidewalks are further from the road with green space between the sidewalk and the road. Crazy, right? Also, huge difference, Chicago is largely flat. So finding a flat lot is the norm here. Anytime a lot has a slope here, that is a deterrent and not what people are looking for in Chicagoland. In New York, flat lots are harder to find. Lastly, along the lines of the older homes and older communities theme that New York contends with, they also have to deal with having oil delivered for heat, and the rocky, hilly ground can make it harder for the utilities to be cohesive from the municipality. In Chicagoland, 100% of the homes have natural gas, and only in unincorporated areas will you find homes on well and septic. The norm here is public water and sewer. Number 2, amenities. New York City is seriously so amazing, but once you're in the suburbs, things are much less accessible as far as amenities and shopping options. When I lived there, I was so shocked by how less convenient things were in Westchester County versus living in DuPage County in the western Chicago suburbs, as far as shopping, grocery, and retail options. I found myself driving much further distances on my shopping outings. I love the mom and pop delis and grocery stores in and around Westchester County in New York, but I noticed how much further I needed to drive for other things like furniture shopping and finding bigger name stores. My husband really misses the pizza places that he could just stop into and get a slice of pizza in New York, or grab-and-go delis owned by local Italian families. We don't have many of those in the Chicago suburbs, but my favorite is Pie Life in Glen Ellen, and even my New Yorker husband approves. I was surprised I needed to drive to White Plains in New York to get a lot of things, whereas in Wheaton, Illinois, we have an array of shopping options for retail and groceries, such as Whole Foods, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, J. Crew, Nordstrom Rack and Taylor, Evereve, White House Black Market, Target, and a bunch of boutiques as well. Wheaton has 7 different grocery options, so you don't have to go far for anything. We also have an incredible park district system, and it's a great way to feel connected to the community, meet other families, and not have to drive out of town for kid activities. Oh, and did I mention we have 2 large town pools, and one is a water park and a public golf course and a public zoo? I love New York, but I'm sorry, Chicago suburbs does this better. Number 3, culture. While New York and Chicago have a lot in common, there are cultural differences, and this is just my own personal experience. When I lived in New York, Midwesterners would ask me how I deal with the people being so rude. I told them I love the people in New York and do not find them rude at all. I am a more direct person in general, and so I appreciate their direct approach and do not take offense to it. I do think I stood out as being a Midwesterner to some degree. I was the teacher, and my students would ask me why I was so happy all the time. You'll notice in the Chicago suburbs, people are very friendly and will smile at you and say hello as you pass one another while out for a walk. I was trying to do this, as it is in my nature, while living in New York, and found it's not as ingrained in the culture to greet strangers there. I was doing it while in Central Park, and people do not say hi back. In Chicagoland, we know our neighbors, help each other out, socialize with them, and sometimes neighbors become more like family. I noticed that New Yorkers aren't as social with their neighbors. My personal opinion, New Yorkers are funnier. If you love joking around and sarcasm, you will find less of that in the Midwest. Midwesterners are also more casual in general. On a night out, I noticed that the New Yorkers were dressing up much more compared to those in the Chicago suburbs. While Chicago is obviously a huge international city, New York is just on a level of its own in every way as far as culture, cuisine, and I feel it is more diverse. The residents in the New York City suburbs feel like they are more tied to their heritage and still uphold more old world family traditions. In my experience, New Yorkers are exposed to more people from around the world, and I think this feels more culturally rich. Number 4, the land. In Westchester County, there are rolling hills and even some mountains with bodies of water such as the Hudson River, which brings a lot of beauty and interest to the geography. This makes it harder for building subdivisions, but gives the area an attractive, outdoorsy feel throughout Westchester County. The land being unique is also why things can feel spread out and really wooded in some areas, even though you're a short distance to Manhattan. When I moved to Westchester from Chicagoland, I would always tell my husband, "Where is the sky?" Because as you're driving down the Taconic State Parkway or other highways, there are trees lining the border of the road and you just can't see the sky. In the western Chicago suburbs, I was so used to seeing the huge sky all the time since it's not as densely wooded and is completely flat. Due to the soft farming soil and lack of any natural barriers for building, Chicagoland is largely an array of continuous subdivisions and commercial businesses as far as the eye can see. It is easy to navigate with newer roads than Westchester. Our highways are huge, our main roads are wide, and we have way more sidewalks connecting everything. I was always in awe that the major roadways in Westchester, New York feel like you're driving a go-kart on a winding road with no breakdown lanes. And if somebody gets in an accident, it would be very difficult for police or ambulances to get to the scene. The bridges on some of the highways in New York are so low that many semi-trucks cannot use certain highways because the top of the trailer would smash into the overpass. I would not have wanted to be a student driver in the New York City suburbs. If you're into hiking and the outdoors, surprisingly, just north of Manhattan, in Westchester County is a great place for outdoor enthusiasts with hiking and reservoirs, and Chicagoland has less of this to offer. And lastly, number 5, family life. The Chicago suburbs have a ton to offer families, and so do the New York City suburbs, but it's not the same. I think the Chicago suburbs have created more events and establishments with families of small children in mind. I think it's due to the fact that it's so easy to build here, and there is a lot of available land to develop on the commercial retail side of things here in the Chicago suburbs. Chicago suburbs and DuPage County, where I live, has so many indoor play places and several children's museums to choose from in the winter and on yucky days. From indoor tube places to pools, indoor climbing walls, and trampoline parks, Chicagoland is full of that sort of thing. Westchester has some of this too, but not on the same scale as Chicagoland. Chicagoland has many offerings in the downtowns, from live music in Wheaton. You don't want to miss the live music series in the summer at Memorial Park, and all of the amazing farmers markets each weekend. Because the climates are similar, you need to figure out how to keep your kids active in the winter months. As an example, we are members of Lifetime Fitness and use it all winter long to keep the kids busy and active. In the New York City suburbs, there appear to be 2 Lifetimes in Harrison and Chappaqua, and the website says they're waitlisted, compared to 12 Lifetimes in the Chicago suburbs. If you're not familiar, Lifetime has an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, cafe, fitness area, childcare, and ours has a really great indoor climbing wall. Both areas have access to the major cities, which have amazing world-class museums for families to visit. Raising a family in the New York City suburbs compared to Chicago suburbs is a completely different experience. Overall, New York and Chicago suburbs have a lot in common, but a lot of differences too. I hope this video was helpful to outline some of the biggest differences that I noticed in my own personal experience. If you are looking to learn more about moving to the Chicago suburbs, I'm happy to help. My contact information is below, and like and subscribe to get all of my updates. Again, I'm Jackie Angiello, realtor, mom of 3, and longtime resident of Wheaton, Illinois. If you need anything, I'm here to help.